40 complaints. A lawyer was hired, a news crew filmed. An entire suburban neighborhood in Florida had decided that a small wooden shed at the edge of their cul-de-sac was a public nuisance, an eyesore, a problem that needed to be removed before the holidays. The black homeless man living inside had become, in the words posted to their Facebook group, the situation down the street. And then, on a Tuesday morning at 6:15, two sheriff's deputies stepped inside that shed. What they found made one of them call her sergeant in tears, made the sergeant cancel the demolition on the spot, and made an entire community very quietly delete their old posts. This is the story of Marcus Whitfield, the shed they tried to tear down, and the half-written letter on a homemade desk that changed everything. In a quiet cul-de-sac in Brandon, Florida, just outside Tampa, a small wooden shed appeared on the edge of a wooded lot one Tuesday in March. By Thursday, the first photo of it had been posted in the neighborhood Facebook group. By the end of the week, 23 people had commented, and not one of them was happy. The shed was maybe 7 feet by 10 feet. It had a slanted roof made of corrugated metal pulled from somewhere, and walls built from scrap plywood with the edges sanded smooth. Whoever built it had taken their time. The door even had a small handle made from a bent piece of copper pipe, polished until it caught the light. The man who lived inside was named Marcus Whitfield. He was 58 years old, 6'2", and most mornings he left the shed at 4:30 in the morning to walk 3 miles to a bus stop. He worked nights, cleaning office buildings in downtown Tampa. He worked weekends bagging groceries at a small store on Bloomingdale Avenue. Nobody in the neighborhood knew any of this. What they knew was that there was a black homeless man living in a shed near their houses, and to most of them, that was already too much. The first complaint to the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office came on a Sunday afternoon. A woman 2 streets over said the shed was an eyesore and that she was worried about her property values. The deputy who took the call drove out, looked at the lot, confirmed the shed was not on private property, and left a polite note on the door asking Marcus to make contact. Marcus never saw the note. He was at work, but the complaint started a pattern. Within the next 3 months, more than 40 calls would come in. Some were about the shed. Some were about Marcus walking through the neighborhood at strange hours. One caller said she had seen him looking at a child playing in a yard. The deputy who responded to that one later said in a report that Marcus had been walking to the bus stop and had not stopped, looked, or said anything to anyone. The Brandon Heights neighborhood Facebook group became the unofficial command center of the campaign. Screenshots of those posts would later be shown on local news. People shared photos of the shed from different angles. Someone posted a long thread arguing that the wooded lot was technically owned by the county and that a coordinated complaint to code enforcement might force action. A real estate agent in the group claimed she had lost a sale because of the situation down the street. Nobody in those threads ever used Marcus's name. They did not know it. He was always just the man, or that guy, or worse. What none of them knew was that Marcus Whitfield had been a master auto mechanic for 26 years. He had run his own small shop in Plant City until 2019, when his wife was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. The shop closed because Marcus couldn't be in 2 places at once. The medical bills came anyway. After his wife passed, the bills kept coming. He sold the shop equipment. He sold his truck. He moved into a 1-bedroom apartment with his teenage daughter, Jasmine. Then, 8 months after his wife died, Jasmine was killed by a drunk driver on her way home from a friend's house. She was 16. Marcus stopped going to work after that. He stopped paying rent. He stopped doing most things. By the time he got back on his feet, almost a year had passed and the apartment was gone. So was most of what he owned. He started over with nothing. He worked the night cleaning shift because it kept him moving when the grief was loudest. He worked weekends because Sundays were the worst. He saved every dollar he didn't spend on food, and he spent very little on food. He ate one meal a day at a diner near his bus route, where the waitress, a woman named Elena, had stopped charging him for coffee months ago. Marcus built the shed himself, board by board, on a lot he had researched at the county records office and confirmed was zoned for unimproved land use. He was not squatting. He had even written a letter to the county in handwriting so neat it looked typed, asking if there was any process by which a person without a home could legally occupy a small structure on unused public land. The county never wrote back, so he built it anyway, because he had nowhere else to go and because he had a plan. That plan is what nobody in the Facebook group knew about. By June, the complaints had a new energy behind them. The Brandon Heights Homeowners Association, which had no actual jurisdiction over the wooded lot, hired a lawyer to write strongly worded letters to the county. A local news crew got tipped off. They filmed a 2-minute segment in front of the shed with the reporter standing just close enough to make it look ominous and calling it a growing eyesore in an otherwise pristine neighborhood. Marcus was at work when they filmed. They never spoke to him. They never tried. After the news segment aired, the pressure on the sheriff's office became impossible to ignore. The Homeowners Association president, a man named Greg Halverson, had personally called 3 times in 1 week. A county commissioner forwarded a constituent letter to the sheriff. The phrase before the holidays kept coming up, as if the shed being there during Christmas would be some kind of personal insult to the neighborhood. The decision came down in early July. 2 deputies would go out at dawn on a Tuesday when records showed Marcus tended to be away at his cleaning job. They would document the structure, photograph the contents, tag it as abandoned, and arrange for a county crew to dismantle it later that week. It was a clean plan. Nobody would have to confront anyone. Nobody would have to look anyone in the eye. The deputies who pulled up that morning were Officer Daniel Reyes and Officer Catherine Mills. Reyes had been on the force for 9 years. Mills had been on for 2. Both of them had read the file on the way over, and both had assumed, based on the complaints, that they were dealing with a transient situation, probably trash, needles, nothing of value. The shed door was not locked. There was no lock on it, just a simple wooden latch. When Officer Mills opened the door and stepped inside, the first thing she said on body camera was the single quiet word, "Oh." The inside of the shed was clean, not just clean for a shed lived in by a homeless man, clean the way a careful person keeps their home. The floor had been swept. A small cot in the corner was made with the corners tucked. There was a milk crate functioning as a nightstand, and on it was a paperback Bible, a pair of reading glasses, and a folded handkerchief. On the back wall, taped in a neat grid, were photographs. A wedding photo of Marcus and a smiling woman in a yellow dress, taken outside a small church. Photos of a little girl growing up year by year, from a toddler in pigtails to a teenager in a graduation cap. The most recent photo was of that same girl, older, sitting on a porch step holding a small kitten. The date written on the back said 2020. Below the photos was a small folded blanket on a wooden shelf. Officer Mills picked it up gently. In one corner, in pink thread, was the embroidered name Jasmine. The fabric was worn soft, the kind of soft that only happens when a blanket has been held 1,000 times by someone who needed something to hold. Jasmine was stitched in careful letters. Officer Reyes was already on the other side of the shed, standing in front of a small homemade desk built from 2 crates and a plank of wood. On top of the desk was a stack of plain white envelopes. Each one had a name written on it in the same careful handwriting. Some of the names had small notes beside them in pencil, like for college or birthday in October. Beside the envelopes was a hardcover ledger. Reyes opened it, Every page was filled with neat columns of numbers, dates, dollar amounts, and notes in the margins. He flipped to the most recent page. The total at the bottom, underlined twice, was $18,412. The ledger documented his savings. Reyes looked at his partner. He did not say anything for a long moment. Then he saw the letter. It was on the desk, half written, weighed down by a small stone. The first line read, "To the Williamson family." The next line read, "5 years ago, your son took something from me that I am still learning how to live without. I am not writing to ask for anything. I am writing to give you something." Reyes read the rest of the letter while standing in the middle of that shed at 6:15 in the morning, as a Florida sun came through a small window his partner had not noticed yet. The window had a curtain made from a piece of yellow fabric that Reyes would later learn had been cut from one of Jasmine's old dresses. The drunk driver who killed Marcus's daughter was the son of a couple named Williamson. The young man had been 19. He had served 4 years of a vehicular manslaughter sentence. After his release, he had reportedly relapsed twice. His parents had spent everything they had on his treatment. They lived in a small house in Lakeland and had not, as far as the public record showed, ever heard from Marcus Whitfield directly. The letter explained that Marcus had spent 5 years saving every dollar he could. He was not religious in the way some people were, but he believed nobody recovered from anything alone. He wrote that he was sending the money to help with their son's continued treatment because he had decided, slowly and over many sleepless nights, that punishing a sick man's family would not bring his daughter back, and that if there was any chance the money could keep one more parent from losing one more child, he wanted that chance to exist. The letter was signed, Marcus Whitfield. Below his signature, he had written, "Jasmine would have wanted me to send this." Officer Reyes stepped outside and called his sergeant. The sergeant, a man named Robert Pina, listened, then said he would be there in 15 minutes. He arrived in 12 minutes. Sergeant Pina went inside the shed alone. When he came out, he stood in the gravel for a long minute, looking at his shoes. Then he made 2 phone calls. The first was to the county code enforcement office, telling them the demolition was canceled until further notice. The second was to a local pastor named Reverend Anthony Caldwell, who ran a small church and a community outreach program in Brandon. Pina knew him from a youth program they had worked on together. Pina told the pastor what he had just seen. The pastor was quiet for a moment, then said he was on his way. By the time Marcus Whitfield walked back from his bus stop that afternoon, 3 vehicles were parked outside his shed, but none of them belonged to demolition crews. One was a sheriff's cruiser. One was the pastor's old sedan. One was a pickup truck belonging to a contractor named Hector, who attended the pastor's church. Marcus stopped on the dirt path when he saw them. He set his cleaning bag down slowly. He had been expecting this day for a long time. He looked tired but not surprised. Officer Reyes walked up to him. He held out his hand. He told Marcus that they had read the letter, that they had not meant to read it, but that they had, and that they were sorry. Marcus didn't say anything for almost a minute. Then he asked if the shed was going to be torn down. Sergeant Pina said no. He said something else was going to happen instead. Within a week, the story had moved from a local news segment about an eyesore to a different kind of story entirely. Reverend Caldwell's church started a fund. Hector the contractor donated his weekend labor. A retired real estate agent who had read about the situation, not the same one from the Facebook group, offered a small 2-bedroom rental house she owned 3 blocks away at a rent of $1 a month for as long as Marcus needed it. The Williamson family, when contacted, did not want the money. They asked instead that it go toward a scholarship in Jasmine's name at the high school she had attended. Marcus agreed. The scholarship exists today. It has been awarded twice. The Brandon Heights Facebook group went very quiet for several weeks. The HOA president, Greg Halverson, did not return calls from the local news station that had originally aired the Eyesore segment. The reporter who had filmed that segment requested a follow-up interview with Marcus. Marcus declined politely. He said he did not have anything to add that the letter had not already said. The shed itself was taken apart carefully, board by Hector and a small group of volunteers. Marcus asked that the wood be saved. Some of it was used to build a small bench at the church. The yellow curtain made from Jasmine's dress went with him to his new house. Marcus still works. He cleans offices 3 nights a week now instead of 5. He still bags groceries on weekends. He still walks places when he could ride. When Reverend Caldwell once asked why he kept working so much when he did not strictly need to anymore, Marcus said that work was the thing that had kept him alive when he wanted to stop being alive, and that he was not going to stop being grateful to it just because his life was a little easier. The original complaints, the 40-plus calls about the shed, are still on file with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. They are public record. Some of them came from the same houses. Some of those houses now have welcome cards in the windows from a small Brandon community group that started after the story broke. The group is called Neighbors First. Marcus is one of its founding members. If you are wondering what happened to the deputies who walk into that shed, Officer Catherine Mills now teaches a training module at the County Academy on responding to homeless individuals. She uses Marcus's case, with his written permission, to explain why every call deserves a careful answer. Officer Daniel Reyes was promoted to detective last year. The first thing he did with his new salary, according to a small piece in the local paper, was donate to the Jasmine Whitfield Memorial Scholarship. Marcus keeps the half-written letter in a drawer in his new house. He never finished it because he didn't need to. The Williamsons read the original draft when the sergeant brought it to them. They wrote back. The letter they sent is on the wall of the small house, framed, in the same place where the photo of Jasmine on the porch step used to be taped to the shed wall. Some stories are about a community discovering who lived among them. This one is about a community discovering who they themselves had been. A small wooden shed in a wooded lot was reported 40 times for being an eyesore. What was actually inside was the quietest, most private form of forgiveness most of those neighbors will ever encounter. They almost tore it down without ever knowing it was there. If this story moved you, hit subscribe. News stories every week about ordinary people who turned out to be carrying something extraordinary, often in plain sight.